Good morning and welcome back to Pathways to Parenting Family Podcast with Julie Johnson. Yesterday we started our 2-day focus on teens. If you missed part 1, it's available on the website www.COFIGHT-19.com. Returning to the theme of teens, it may be helpful to remind ourselves that just like us, they've had their sense of choice and autonomy ripped out from under them. So helping them to feel as though they still have some control of their lives is important by involving them in decision making. They need to be contributing as much to family life as any other member of the household, so everyone should be doing daily jobs. But by allowing them some choice within reason as to when they do theirs. Then, if they are not doing what has been agreed, do speak to them about it. But it's always better to show curiosity rather than criticism. Saying, "Why haven't you done that?" is very confrontational, and you will almost likely result in a fight-flight reaction from your child. Try saying something more inquisitive like, "I was wondering when you were going to do that," or "I've noticed that what we agreed doesn't seem to be working. What's happening? What can we do about it? Let's talk it through." These questions are more likely, I cannot guarantee it, but more likely to draw your child into an issue of concern and hopefully, possibly, a productive dialogue. You will also be modelling good practice, good behaviour and how to handle difficult conversations. If that does not work, then definitely moving on some sort of consequence is a very reasonable next step. It's equally important to only fight the battles that are worth fighting. I would suggest that if they have their own room, then allowing them to have this as their space, and it's up to them to keep it tidy. If they don't, they don't, and they will have to take more responsibility when they can't find the things they need. I remember well after a teen seminar, when I had advised this, one mum emailed me some weeks later, saying that she'd finally let go of nagging about her son's room, and it had transformed her relationship with him. When it comes to managing their time, this may not come naturally to all teens. They often need structure as much as the rest of us. So talk about this with them, recognising they may need you to help them. Get them to think about how they manage their day, how they fit in schoolwork, meal times, daily exercise, time with family and time with friends. Many schools will be helping us create this structure by getting them to register. Some lessons will be on group platforms, whilst others learning will be self-directed. So giving them a level of choice and autonomy as to how they plan their day within the guidelines that the school has suggested. If they don't seem to be managing, then revisit it, and if necessary, seek the support from the school pastoral team, form teacher or head of year. Keep some structure and normality through standard routines like getting dressed in the morning, keeping set meal times. These areas should be non-negotiable unless you've got an older teen, maybe 17, 18, but for the younger ones definitely, as they are important to their mental health. I'm not saying it's not important for the older ones, but they may need that little extra choice in their daily life. And if things are going wrong, then you revisit it with them. One aspect of structure will be when they get up. Some schools may have a set sign-on time, while others may not. Give your teen some leeway on when they get up, maybe. Lying in bed all day is not good for them, though getting up at 9 or 10 is not probably the end of the world at this time, depending on what the framework the school is offering them. Perhaps you should have an agreement that they may stay in bed later as long as they're getting their work done and not going to bed ridiculously late. Maybe after 11 definitely is too late, especially for young teens. Unless you are an extraordinarily fortunate parent, conflict with teens is inevitable. In fact, a level of conflict is both normal and healthy in family life, as it is in the world and relationships in general. However, a key thing to remember during conflict is that your teen is not equal in status. You are the adult, they are the teenage child, though both should be respected. But with the roller coaster of teenage emotional life, they may not always demonstrate that, especially within the home environment. Teens developmentally are a bit like 2-year-olds. Though their thinking brains are clearly more developed, their emotional brains are very overactive. Hence, they flip between emotional extremes. You may remember this from Dr. Anna Rudkin's session on day 16, which is well worth checking out if you missed it. This does not mean that you should ignore inappropriate rude behaviour, but rather try as best you can to respond, not react. Shouting back will not get anyone anywhere. When you set clear boundaries for how you expect your teen to talk to you during conflict, just make sure you're modelling that back to them as well. You're also teaching them how to do conflict outside the home and when they move into the world of adult responsibilities. If you don't want your teen to become an adult that shouts at their colleagues, to get their own way, then now is the time to start teaching them effective conflict management skills. Most of us understand that we cannot control the behaviour of another person, but our own behaviour will influence them and affect their choices. So how does this apply with teens? Well, if you can manage your own temper and behaviour by noticing when your teen is pushing your buttons, acknowledging what you're feeling, pausing, taking a breath, stop, drop and breathe, you will be in a much better place to make thoughtful choices yourself, which will then help you and then them to manage the behaviour. Maybe during more peaceful times at home, take the opportunity to make a family agreement that when people are upset, which they will be, they take time out to calm down and come back later to discuss what has happened. This doesn't mean there will never be raised voices or heated discussions, but when it does happen, you will already have a structure for making sure that when everyone has calmed down, you will reconnect and try as best you can to reset. And when we do come back to the issue, it's hopefully in a more positive, productive, to deal openly and thoughtfully with the issue at hand, rather than harping back to past misdemeanours. One family I know practices listening to each other, with the listener reflecting back to what has been said, and by the end of the discussion they each have a better understanding of each other's position, which helpfully draws them closer, transforming the argument into a good opportunity for bonding. This doesn't always work in all families, I realise that. It's just one example. Support for teens and parents is priceless, so make sure you have people around who you can talk to and they can talk to, allowing your teen to speak to maybe a grandparent, aunt, uncle, trusted friend, teacher or peer. There is a wonderful Nigerian proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Even in the best of times, having others who we can turn to and our teens can turn to is absolutely invaluable, bringing a wider pool of wisdom to help us through our challenges. Our children, especially teenagers, need that chance to offload and receive support, and how much more so in this time of intensely challenging living with COVID-19. If you're worried about your teen's mental health, don't hesitate to get in touch with the school, GP, NSPCC or other agency. For teens who are already struggling with their mental health, COVID-19 will have brought with it extra stresses and strains, adding to existing problems. Others may have seemed okay, but were vulnerable. The lockdown has overnight pushed them out their support networks of school and friends, which were holding them and supporting them, and they now need help. If they have existing help, hopefully this has stayed in place. If for any reason it's not, discuss your concern with your teen, sharing with them that these are difficult times, and in moments like this, many, both adults and teens, will need extra help and support. Then, together get in touch with the appropriate agencies, GPs, schools, or charities such as Young Minds. There is more support material on the website. Today and yesterday we turned our attention supporting our teens through COVID-19, recognise the incredible difficulties and challenges the lockdown brought not only to them but to parents and families as a whole. Let's return then to day 6 and 7, looking at how we treat ourselves when we make mistakes or when things are difficult. So let's remember to be compassionate to ourselves and to our teens. So tomorrow is the final day of this Pathways to Parenting family podcast. But now pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now? A moment of reflection for yourself. Stay well, stay safe.